Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Prepare to Repair Show. I am your host, Steve Suarez, Plumber Steve, with RJ Graham Plumbing. Joining me today on our show is David Dertz, who's the president of the Illinois Plumbing Inspectors Association, or the IPIA. He is also a state-certified plumbing inspector and state plumbing code instructor. And if that's not enough, he also owns his own company. How you doing, David?
I'm doing good. How are you, Steve?
I'm doing well. We're having a little technical difficulties this morning. So, looking good. What is the name of your company?
Name of my company is Aquaflow Plumbing out of Carroll Stream, Illinois.
Okay, so you're west side over there. So that's cool. And today we're going to discuss plumbing, and we're going to try to keep it very interesting because I believe there is a lot of misinformation about what we do, and because it affects everybody in every aspect of their life, they just don't even know it. It's often ignored.
It's one thing that we take for granted every day. Clean
Absolutely.
water and a place to get rid of it.
Oh, absolutely. That I couldn't agree with you more. And I tell people, I said, people don't think of plumbers, but I said within the first 3 to 5 minutes of waking up in the morning, you've already have interacted with our trade. 9 times out of 10. I mean, you're going to the bathroom or you're brushing your teeth. You're
jumping in the shower. You're doing something that requires water and clean water, and we're lucky enough to have it in our country.
And if you don't think about it, that means we're doing our job.
That's right.
That's the main thing. So, everybody, the Prepare to Repair show is presented by Ferguson Supply Kitchen, Bath, and Lighting Showroom, located at 7950 West 185th Street in Tinley Park. Whether you are doing a minor facelift or a full kitchen and bath remodel, Ferguson has you covered. Also, be sure to check out the Cruise Night in Frankfort, which runs every Monday starting June 6th through September 26th in downtown Frankfort. All cruise nights are subject to weather, and while you're down there, please check out some of the shops and restaurants in beautiful downtown Frankfort. So what we're going to talk about, Dave, is just touching on what we were just talking about before, the importance of plumbing in daily life, almost to the point, like I said, we don't think about it until something happens.
And then when something happens, we panic about it.
Exactly. That's pretty much what it is. I mean, you're not wrong. It's one of those things where it's out of sight, out of mind, because it's taken for granted.
It's like flipping a switch, walking into a room and just expecting the lights to come on. We expect clean water to come out of the faucets. We expect to be able to flush our toilets, be able to wash our dishes and everything else. And when something malfunctions, it's complete chaos. It's something that we can't get around. And nobody realizes how long plumbing has actually been in existence in modern terms, where we're using piping, indoor fixtures, and everything else.
Well, again, it's when things happen, people just, like I said, they just panic. And I think, and I always say, and even just on this show, one of the reasons why we started it was to give people a lot of information on, if you have certain things in place, you don't really have to panic. Because if you, like with your plumbing system, it's like anything else, like your car, anything else mechanical, have yourself a good, reputable plumber that is coming in and checking everything out, is giving it a look every now and then, going over it, checking to make sure everything's going properly, so you can minimize those surprises.
Yes, and it also helps, just like your family doctor. So having a plumber come in when you have a minor issue, or even to just do an inspection to look for any maintenance issues that you may have. If you have filters on your system, if you have a softener, hose bibs, water heater that may need draining or something like that. Those are all little things that you can have a plumber come in, minimal fee, have a service charge or something like that, look at everything, get to know the layout of your home just like your doctor gets to know your body.
Right.
Have them understand what's going on. That way when something does happen, it's a little bit easier to make the repairs. or prevent a repair.
Well, I've heard, and I've seen this happen a lot, where people are like, I don't want some plumber snooping around my house. He's coming here looking for stuff that is just, looking for things to break. By the time he comes in here for a little, maybe a little inspection fee of, maybe $150 or whatever it is, by the time he leaves, I've got a $1,000 bill after he leaves. And it's like, you hired the wrong plumber then. Because my thought is one, when you go through and get an inspection, this way you know exactly where your potential hazards lie. Then you can make a decision on where you go from there.
Absolutely.
And I find it's easier and more cost effective to play offense than play defense, because you're reacting to your house rather than you're reacting to what the house tells you instead of you being proactive to it.
Correct. And even your local plumbing inspectors, there's a lot of times that I will, as a contractor, advise people contact their local plumbing inspectors. They're there for a reason. The reason that we're an inspector is to come and make sure that everything's up to code, make sure that everything's safe and sanitary for you. A lot of people seem to forget that. The motto of the plumbers is we protect the health of the nation. And that's true. Doctors, nurses, they do a great job protecting your health, but if they can't wash their hands and everything else, they can't treat you either and cure your diseases. Plumbers are your first line of defense, prevention rather than cure. So having that in your repertoire and having a plumber come in and take care of all your fixtures, furnace, attachments, anything else that you have on the house that has water going to it, and making sure that's in good shape. And you may have, if you haven't had a plumber in your house for 10 years, you may have a list of things like that that's $1,000. Yeah. The national average is, the average home has a plumbing problem about every 16 months. And it may be something minor as a toilet flapper leaking or a faucet dripping or a plug drain. But houses that, 10, 15, 20 years old, the older they get, if they haven't been updated, right, they're going to require some maintenance, and some, other problems are going to happen along the way, just because most homeowners don't know how to take care of their plumbing system. They know on a furnace that you got to change your furnace filter. They know right, that basic. And they'll have somebody come out typically to inspect the furnace and air conditioning system. But they don't have somebody come out and, inspect their electrical box on a regular basis. And they never have somebody come out and inspect plumbing just to do that. They always wait for the problem to happen.
Well, I'm going to ask you something here. First off, you said about simple as a flapper issue. Now, most flappers on a standard toilet run you about $10 maybe, what that would run.
Yep.
How much do they cost you when they just continue to run?
Oh, they can cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. So it's amazing how such a simple little part, and I can testify to this because being a plumber, we're always working and not always, I'm in the same boat.
Are you going to go with the mechanic's car is always broke, the plumber's faucet is dripping?
I had one that literally hung up while we were gone over a weekend holiday.
Oh, wow.
And I came home to a 5,000-gallon water bill because my daughter, the flapper didn't close all the way. We left the house for the weekend, come home, heard the toilet running. I closed it. A couple weeks later, got the water bill and had sticker shock. Yeah. It's like, no, that can't happen to me. This is my job. It's not allowed. But, it still does. It still happens to even the best of us.
Water, that liquid gold, it's expensive. And it will, again, if that was at a faucet, you would have known right away.
Because you see it.
Exactly. Your toilet is one of those fixtures that it can run and run and run. And unless you're in close proximity to it, where you're not going to hear it, or it gets drowned out by all
the other ambient noises in the home.
Oh, absolutely. So, that's an expensive. I mean, it's little things like that could wind up costing you money. But here's another thing. Another thing I found is with cost is the fact that emergency repairs. Now, when you have emergency repairs, they're often not really emergencies. I mean, and I say that because a lot of the issues we will get I have an emergency. It's a valve that's corroded, that's been corroded for a while, and it's had an issue for a while, and they've walked by it for countless times. So it's like, if you're proactive in the repair, you catch that. So you're not paying an emergency repair later on, and because this stuff doesn't go. It doesn't have an issue in between 8 and 4 or, Monday through Friday.
Correct.
It happens on a weekend. It happens on a holiday. It's like, so I realized in just doing this, it's like, mostly your emergencies that are called in for emergencies, they've given you a clue that they were going to have a problem for a while.
Well in advance, yep.
I mean, so that's where being proactive saves you a ton more money than waiting for it. And it's just also having these little small jobs, and I always say this, having these little small jobs gives you a chance, if you don't have a plumber, to audition one.
That's a great point.
See
who you like, see if there are people out there that have personality conflicts,
right,
that they don't get along. I've got great guys that work for me, and there's some people that always request the same plumber.
Right.
Guys work for the same company. That guy's on vacation. I send another plumber, and they tell me how much they hate the other guy because they're just used to plumber A's personality and not plumber B. People are different, and you get used to certain things, and it does make a difference.
But it's also continuity with the house too. It's like when you have a person that you've already went through all that.
They know all that.
Yes.
They remember all those problems in your house, or things that they've changed or fixed or recommended or things like that.
Exactly. But, you having a company as well, and me too, is our systems have, as the plumbing trade has evolved, as we start to evolve as companies, we're able to use and take advantage of technology. And that's another thing we'll probably touch on after we take a break here soon, is how technology is affecting the plumbing trade. But having the technology to document everything that is done, everything with its form of video, pictures, documentation of everything that's being done, and having that at your fingertips when somebody comes out to your house is extremely helpful, because then it shortens any type of learning curve that, like, say, if you have somebody on vacation, the person who comes in could almost step in and be able to, okay, I see we've done this, this, and this, and this, and you're having a problem with this, which I know that we've done this and this so far.
Right. It kind of gives them a step ahead in the race of figuring out what the issue is. We know what we've repaired in somebody's house, or issues that we have found that, maybe somebody didn't want to do that right away. They put it off down the road. Anything like that. I mean, something as simple as just checking your valves underneath your sinks and things like that. Most people, manufacturers, recommend that you turn them.
Yeah.
Once a month. Nobody ever does that. Manufacturer recommends draining your water heater once a month. Nobody ever does that. They're lucky if they do it once a year.
Right. Well, I mean, what we've done with our water heaters is we've included a yearly flush with the purchase of it, up for a minimum of the 6 years, just to make sure that something's being done with it.
Right.
Because we're finding that we've had our warranty that we've had, the parts and labor warranty, for going on over 8 years now. And we're finding now that here we are getting into year 8, 9 of these water heaters that we installed. We gave a 6-year warranty on them. They should last longer than that, but they haven't been touched. And when you don't maintain anything, the lifespan is shortened.
And that's a common phone call that we get. I've got a 10-year-old water heater. It's making noises. It sounds like popcorn's going off in there because of sediment or something like that. Should I just start draining it or start tampering with things now? And we always warn people, if you have done nothing up until that point, you're asking for problems if you start opening valves and doing other things. Your best bet is to start saving your pennies and start putting them away looking for a new one.
Exactly. You're listening to the Prepare to Repair show here on WJOL 1340. I'm joined here. I'm Plumber Steve with RJ Graham Plumbing, and joining me is David Dertz, who is the plumber extraordinaire He is. I'm going to bill you up, man. I'm going to talk. You're the plumbing god. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about how technology is really affecting the plumbing trade. Welcome back to the Prepare to Repair Show. I am your host, Plumber Steve of RJ Graham Plumbing, and joining me is Mr. David Dertz with Aquaflow Plumbing.
Correct.
And he is also president of the Plumbing Inspectors Association, or the IPIA, and he's a state-certified plumbing inspector and state plumbing code instructor. So it's safe to say he knows plumbing.
Well, I know a few things.
You know a few things? Okay. Well, we're gonna tap what you know. Now, in the trade, obviously, technology is affecting it. It's funny where people would think well, you're just doing a drain, you're just, playing with a faucet or whatever. But technology is really, it's changing how we do our work as
it's changing everything. It's technology, be it motion sensing faucets.
Yes.
Motion sensing toilets. We don't have to touch the toilet. You can just wave your hand over the lid and have it flush.
Right.
It gets into every aspect of our life nowadays. We can't get around it. And in a lot of cases, it is good things. The motion sensing toilets, I don't have to touch a toilet handle with anything on my hands before I wash them, so there's no cross-contamination. You have wireless sensors on some pumps that tell you if your pump is failing,
right,
or going bad, or the water level's rising, to help keep your house from flooding. Because as much as we enjoy the water that's in our house, it's also an enemy to our house. If we have a leak or a problem, we want to know about that, because a little water leak, a little bit of water damage, you're thousands and thousands of dollars in bills, and God forbid it turns into mold, and then it's even worse.
And then you got, not to mention, leak sensors that you can put throughout the house, and it'll shut off it'll communicate with your main water valve. I believe you told me a story about what you do with your son when he's in the shower.
So I have a teenage son who's football and wrestling, and he used to come home, and we've got 2 40-gallon water heaters in my house, and he would manage to drain both heaters because he'd be in the shower for an hour. So I put on a water-saving sensing device, and it shuts his water off after 15 minutes. So he can't take his hour-long showers anymore. He gets a little notice. I get a phone call, I get a text message, I get an email that the water's going off in 1 minute, and if I know it's my son in the shower, I let it go off. And I'll hear him scream from across the house, and I'll turn it back on, but you got 2 minutes or it's going back off. But it's one way to control, especially teenagers. They get lost in the shower. And when he was a little boy, it was hard to get him in the shower. Now it's hard to get him out. But it's little things like that can save you a lot of money. You go on vacation and you can have a pipe leak or burst or something. And again, it stops your house from flooding and causing thousands of dollars in damage.
You're a very, very mean man.
I am very mean.
I'm not saying I don't agree with you. I just said you're a mean man. And I could tell you, there's some parents out there listening, going, "I got to find that device. I'd like this guy."
There's about 10 different companies that make them now. So.
Oh yeah, there's. We actually we gave away a leak sensor made by Groa, and that one is basically it's more of an alarm, but it does interact with their shutoff valve. So that's one there. But the one you're talking about, you can control. That's a little bit more elaborate. That's different than this one. But one of the prizes we gave away just recently on WJOL here was a Delta smart faucet that was that it was interactive. It interacted with the internet and hooked up to your smart device, and you can talk to it. And it's like I said, it's a really cool design, So
you don't even have to wave your hand to it. You could just ask it to turn on.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's really cool. And this particular one, like I said, it's the Touch IQ faucet, and you can touch it, you can talk to it. So I mean, you're really, it's getting into a whole different area where people are it's just plumbing. And I've had people who are looking for a career, and they're like, well, why would you get into plumbing? And they're thinking it's a dead trade, where they couldn't be more wrong.
No, they can't be farther from the truth. I mean, people have to eat. People have to have water. Those are two things that are indisputable. You can have a house that has a power outage. You know, we have big storms come through.
Mm-hmm.
There's homes that have power outages for 2 or 3 days. People can get by. They can live with that. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to lose some food in your fridge or freezer, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have water for 2 or 3 days, you're flipping out. Most people cannot handle not having water for a couple hours, much less days.
Yeah, so as kind folks that are unwell, we tend to suffer when there's a power outage.
Yeah.
Without a generator.
If you don't have a generator, if it's constant in your area, you'd be wise to get one.
Well, so basically this. So if my house doesn't have air conditioning, it's sweltering hot. If my house doesn't have air conditioning, my house uninhabitable?
No, your house is completely legal to live in. Lots of homes don't have air conditioning. It's a comfort that we have, but not every home has it. A lot of older homes don't. I grew up in a home we had hydronic heat. So the only air conditioning we had, where there was one air conditioner in the living room window, and that was the one cold room in the house. The bedrooms and stuff didn't have air conditioning. We opened the windows at night when it cooled off and dealt with it. So you get a lot of, Chicago public schools are a perfect example. A lot of schools don't have air conditioning in them.
Right.
That they're opening the windows that everybody complains about. But again, I grew up in the south suburbs. Middle school I went to, we didn't have air conditioning. We opened the windows. We tolerated that back then, and nowadays children are a bit more spoiled, and they require their air conditioning.
Well, when I was in school, the only air conditioning when I was in high school, the only place that had air conditioning was the computer lab. That was it.
Yeah.
So you tried to get some sort of computer class
just so you could chill out for the day.
At least for 40 minutes, whatever the period was. I mean, that's all you got. Everything else, nobody had air conditioning. So when you look at that, it's water is a necessity of life. Pretty much everything else. I mean, you had homes when they were, even going back years and years and years ago, they were built near water.
Yep.
They had to be built. They had to be near water. You didn't have electricity. You didn't have furnaces. You didn't have anything, but you had to be near water, and it's a necessity of life. And that's one thing that that the plumbing trade has done. We've evolved, and having people that know how to continue that trade and continue the work that's being done, and with the evolution of the trade, it's needed and sorely needed now.
Yeah, unfortunately, too many young people don't want to get their hands dirty. Plumbing is definitely a strenuous job. You have to have a good degree of common sense, intelligence, and wisdom to, especially as a service plumber, to get through your day. As you pointed out, the newer faucets and everything, sometimes even myself, I think you got to be a computer wizard to get them hooked into the Wi-Fi and everything else. I'm no computer expert. I'm no Wi-Fi expert or Bluetooth or anything like that. And usually they are pretty simple. But there are other things that we need to learn, along the way. That's the great thing about plumbing is the trade never ends. There's always something new, almost on a daily basis, that you get to learn about it. And that's what's always kept me so interested in it and so involved in it, is there's so many new things it doesn't get boring ever.
Well, I always say that it requires problem solving skills, critical thinking skills, and it's one of those things where, especially with service, it's going to challenge you
every day.
The one thing about service plumbing, you've seen this too, you will look like a genius in one job, and it will make you look like a rookie the next one.
Yes, it will. Even with 30 plus years doing it, there's days that I feel like a rookie when I'm trying to figure a problem out.
Yeah. People, when they call you, they think that, you should know, like if you have a lot of experience or you're a plumber, you should know everything. And you don't always, but the great thing about having or being in this trade is you can call people. You can check things out. You can bounce things off because your experience and what you've run to and run into, and what I've run into is going to be different. So there may be something that, have you seen this? Or you can call somebody and say, have you seen this? Have you run into this? Even the reps, all these different people that are involved in it, you can get the answers that you need. So you don't always have to know them. You just have to be able to tap that information to find out.
Knowing the person to call is just important as knowing how to do it.
Exactly.
And that's one of the things that drove me into the Illinois Plumbing Inspectors Association. When I first became a plumbing inspector, I was asked by a very wise old inspector, Jerry Tingstra, to join the association and get to learn. And I was younger. I really felt intimidated by the older guys that were the majority of the group and what they knew and learning from them. And I've had some great mentors in the group that have taught me stuff. And I still, there's some things that I'll call them in a heartbeat.
Right.
I know a little bit about this, but I don't have a lot of experience in it. What can you tell me? Or here's my situation. And that's the great thing about the association is you're able to bounce ideas off of people. And at our monthly meetings, even though they're primarily based on code and code changes and things like that, the things we're talking about now, we'll bounce the first half of the, before the meeting starts or afterwards. We're bouncing questions and stuff off each other. And, hey, I ran into this situation, or I've got to inspect this, and I'm not sure because I've never done dialysis. I've never done, a trench underground system. There's hundreds of things that guys, no matter how long you're in this trade, you're never going to know everything. And I've been very, very fortunate to meet some really great plumbers that are, most of the time, are happy to share their knowledge with you. And that's the beauty of our trade.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're going to take a quick break because I'm here with, you're listening to the Prepare to Repair show on WJOL here, 1340. I'm Plumber Steve. You're listening to David Dertz, my guest. And we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to discuss a little bit more about plumbing inspectors and inspections and the importance of permits. Welcome back to the Prepare to Repair show right here on WJOL 1340. I am your host, Steve Suarez, Plumber Steve with RJ Graham Plumbing. And I'm back here with David Dertz, president of the Illinois Plumbing Inspectors Association. I'm going to say that all the time. And certified plumbing inspector. Before the break, we were talking about inspectors and inspections, and it leads me to another segment here. Is it's the importance of plumbing inspectors and permits. And I say that because a lot of people, they think inspections, they think permits. And they're like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to have anything there. And since I started the show, the one thing I've always said is, and I try to bring the homeowners and inspectors kind of and having them on the show, is the inspectors are your friends.
Absolutely.
They're your friends. They're there to help you. They're there to make sure that the contractors are doing their jobs.
You're paying somebody a fee to do a specific job, and that's exactly what the inspector's doing. Making
Correct.
Sure, because our plumbing code, most people, including plumbers, seem to forget that's the minimum standard.
Correct.
This is the bare minimum that we need to do. So we like to, oftentimes, my company anyways, we like to exceed that minimum as much as we can.
Right.
And give people options to go even farther than that. But any plumber that's doing a job should be proud of the job they're doing. They should be happy to have a third party, which is your plumbing inspector, come out and inspect that work and say, yes, they did a nice job. I mean, that's the nice slap on the back at the end of the job that makes it all worthwhile when they approve it. I myself, again, even president of the Plumbing Inspectors Association, I am so happy when I have an inspector show up and look at one of my jobs. And he's nice work. And I wouldn't expect anything different. I'm like, well, that's why I have you out here. Even though I'm a continuing education instructor, the president of the Inspectors Association, I still really enjoy having inspectors come to my job and look at my work and proud to show off what I did. And any good plumber should be. Anybody that's telling you, no, we don't need permits or we can get around this, they're hiding something. You wouldn't want your insurance agent to do that, your doctor or nurse to do that, your dentist to do that. If they're saying, nah, we don't necessarily have to do this, that should raise a red flag in your head right away.
It doesn't for a lot of people.
No, it doesn't, unfortunately.
It doesn't, because I tell people, no matter if you're doing what you're supposed to do, it doesn't matter who's watching.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter. I mean, I could have the President of the United States and everybody watching me, and if I'm doing my job the way I'm supposed to do, I'm fine. Shouldn't matter anything. Shouldn't matter what I'm doing if I'm doing everything correctly. Now, I want to ask you this. What happens if I don't have a plumber's license?
If you don't have a plumber's license in the state of Illinois, legally, you can't do plumbing work. You can't install piping. We see a lot of heating and air conditioning companies installing water heaters, for example. They'll advertise it. But they don't have a plumbing license. Legally, they cannot do the piping connections to the water lines, because there are times when guys think just because they can solder a pipe, they can hook things together. And that's not always the case. There are, depending upon the type of heater, whether it's a conventional heater, a power vent, a tankless heater, they may have different safeties and different protocols to be putting them all together. And those oftentimes get missed when an unlicensed person is trying to put it together.
And oftentimes people think they're saving money by getting somebody who's unlicensed, but essentially, this is America. People will try to get the most value for what they can offer. And if somebody is offering something for less money, that means they're offering something for less money, because it's pretty much what its value is.
Its value is less. And what most people don't realize or don't think about at the time of the job is, unlike 100 years ago where people were born and raised in a house, inherited it, and never left it, we move. Most people are moving from home to home to home 2, 3, 4 times in their life. So you're getting something done, and it may not show up right now. You may save a few dollars now by having a handyman or your brother, sister's cousin come over and fix some plumbing or do something for you. Then you go to sell your house, and now it's a year or two down the road, prices have gone up, and it gets caught on a home inspection. So, and a lot of towns, especially in the Chicagoland area, they also do point-of-sale inspections. So you actually have the municipality coming in, looking at the home, making sure there's no life safety issues, nothing that's going to be a danger to the next person moving in there. And they find these issues and bring them up. And as a municipal inspector, we would find that all the time. Tons of life safety issues, improper venting on water heaters and things like that, that literally could cost you your life because somebody put something together and had absolutely no clue how to do it.
Now, the one thing you mentioned, Jerry Teenstra, he brought up an interesting point when he was talking about inspections. He says, when we inspect, he says, the home, you will leave as the homeowner. So you do these whatever repairs, and if they're subpar, you leave, the home will stay in the municipality.
That's right.
So that means if somebody buys this and you have a whole lot of work done that's not done correctly, and has an issue and it causes damage, and it's not covered by insurance, and it's a financial hardship to the particular homeowners, this house falls in disrepair. What's it doing to the area in which you're living in? So, it can cause...
It can bring down housing values, but I've personally have been involved in several cases. One right here locally in Joliet, about 15 years ago, where a lady bought a house, and it turns out the gentleman that she bought the house from had done some plumbing, had some pipes and stuff hidden in the wall, some flexible lines that were literally put together with hose clamps. And right after she bought the house, they started to leak. And in her case, she didn't have a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Insurance didn't want to cover it because it wasn't proper plumbing. Mm-hmm. And I testified in court as to what we found and documented when I came out and had to replace the piping and everything else. Yeah, he saved a couple dollars, but he ended up losing it in court. Between the repair fees, the lawyer's fees, the court costs, he lost. So trying to save a couple dollars today doesn't mean that won't come bite you farther down the road when it turns out to be bad for somebody else and you end up moving out of that place.
Well, that's the key thing, and that's one of the points I actually have on my thing I wanted to talk about is the importance of getting the right people to do it right the first time, because it may seem like a little bit more expensive to get it done right the first time, but you're only doing it the one time. You're not doing it twice and then having to pay, because where's plumbing at? It's hidden in walls. So now not only do you have to do the job again and make the repair, now you get the restoration costs of putting everything back.
Opening, closing the walls, repainting, retiling.
Absolutely.
All that adds up again, as you pointed out. Thousands of dollars extra that you're paying twice, not only for the plumbing, but twice to open and close the walls and everything else.
Correct. Now, let me ask you this. So say I'm working and I'm working for a company, and it's like, you know what? I have somebody contacting me on social media saying, hey, I'm a licensed plumber, though. I've got my, my journeyman's license, and someone contacts me and says, "Hey, I want you to do some plumbing work for me." Can I legally do plumbing work in the state of Illinois?
No, you cannot. Legally in the state of Illinois, unless it's your own single-family residence, even as a licensed plumber, you cannot be doing any plumbing work in somebody else's home unless you hold a plumbing contractor's license. So there's two of those in the state of Illinois. For the bulk of the state, that's going to be the 055 license. That's a plumbing contractor's license. The city of Chicago has their own plumbing contractor's license, PL number, that they're going to use. But everybody else in the state, plumbing contractor has to have an 055. So if a licensed plumber owns a apartment building, for example, legally he cannot do any of the plumbing work in there if he's not also a plumbing contractor.
So a journeyman plumber who is working for a company and decides to do some jobs after hours on the weekends that he's picking up, say, off of social media, he can't do it legally.
Nope.
Okay.
No, and the problem is more and more insurance companies are starting to crack down on that. They're asking for receipts for jobs. If, for example, that licensed plumber who did that job on the weekend, and he may have a faulty part. He may have done a beautiful job putting it together, and it's a faulty part. The insurance company wants to pass the blame on, and it leaked and caused damage. They want to pass the blame to whoever they can to get out of paying that restoration for that water damage or mold damage, whatever happened. So they're going to go after that licensed plumber.
Absolutely.
Because he did not pull a permit. He did not have the proper credentials to do the job on his own. As plumbing contractors, we have to have insurance. We have to have both business liability. We both have to have workers' comp. We have to have auto insurance. We have to have a separate bond, $20,000 bond minimum with the state of Illinois. So if there's problems, the state, people can contact the state to go after that licensed plumber if he's not responding to it. If it was a licensed plumbing contractor that put in that bad fitting. As a contractor, that's the other thing. We're going to try to use, most anyways, are going to try to use quality parts so that they don't have problems. And that's another issue that I see is, people want to buy, they see some pretty looking faucet on Amazon or something like that. And it may be beautiful looking, but unfortunately it's not a code compliant faucet, and it doesn't necessarily have all the safety features that it should for that particular situation.
Right.
I've unfortunately, as an inspector, I have had to upset some people telling them, no, we can't install that shower device because it's not code compliant, and somebody can get scalded in there. I also happen to sit on the ASSC Scald Awareness Task Group. We've written a bunch of white papers on scald awareness. You get 30,000 people a year in the United States that get burned from hot water. That's an astronomical number. If you look at your water heater, there's a little picture of a baby. Don't put them in the sink when you're washing them. That little diagram's on there for a reason, because people have done that. In a regular sink, you have no scald control.
Right.
If that baby kicks the faucet handle, and it goes to hot, that baby can get burned. And it's happened more than once. That's why that sticker's on the water heater warning you.
Can't move.
Can't move.
You can't go anywhere. Yeah.
So there's a lot of things we do that people don't know the backstory to. A lot of technology changes that we've done in plumbing. again, that people don't know the backstory to, and usually it's because something failed and somebody got hurt,
right?
Whether it was an individual, a house, or even an entire neighborhood. Flint, Michigan's a perfect example. They forgot to put an anti-corrosive. They wanted to save some money when they were pumping water out of the Flint River, and it's caused huge water problems there, where they have to replace all the water mains, all the water services. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage, and they're still not done with the repairs after all these years. They're only halfway done with it. It's going to take them another 5 to 8 years to repipe the entire city.
Wow.
So, little things add up fast.
Well, I mean, just as regular homeowners, when they see taking that water for granted, the clean water for granted as it comes in and comes out. What we try to do on the show is we try to give people information so they get the right people, so they can minimize the headaches. And as far as safety and quality of the products that they're getting. And I always say, like I said about the licensing, it's when you get somebody who is qualified to do what they're supposed to do, they're liable, they're responsible, and they're accountable. That's what that license does, because it all that holds you to a standard. Because if you're responsible for it, you have the insurance, you have the bonds, you have everything there, and you're accountable for everything you're doing. You're liable. It puts you there. You can't hide. You can't run.
It puts you up at the next level, because if you try to hide or you try to run, you lose all of that. You lose your livelihood, and that's never anybody's intent, is to lose their livelihood.
No, and most plumbers out there, and the ones that are dedicated to the trade, are going to make sure that you're taken care of. They're going to do the right thing, and they're going to make sure that everything is done properly to code. And because again, it could be it could be something simple that causes some major damage. And in doing this, I try to make sure that everybody is satisfied, everybody's taken care of, and everybody gets the product that they deserve, and that that we've promised to them, and that it's going to work properly. And that's why we have the warranties we do, and that's why you do what you do. And when an inspector comes out, I want them to see everything that we're doing. I want them to know the who, what, when, where, how, and why. This is what we're doing. This is why we did. And if there is an issue, which I've failed inspections, okay, what should we have done differently, or how should we approach that? Because there may be some things that we've overlooked or missed that second set of eyes can bring up. Yeah.
And again, that's the importance of having a permit. You want that. It's a third party that's coming in. And I've told people before we've even started the job, we'll give somebody an estimate. Have the plumbing inspector come out and look at this project beforehand.
Right.
Get, especially on a remodel or something like that, an addition going on, have him get a set of eyes on it, so that when he gets the prints in his hand, and I've preached this to other plumbing inspectors, take a look at the job beforehand, because a set of prints don't always tell you everything else that's going on. You need to get out there, you need to see what it is, to make sure that everything's going to work. Because oftentimes, I've worked for a dozen different municipalities, and sometimes we did in-home inspections or in-house plan reviews and inspections, and sometimes we've sent them out. We send them out to a third-party service. They inspect it, send it back to us. I get out to the job, and the job is nothing like the blueprints. It's completely Egyptian compared to what was handed to us.
Well, you've got, and I've run into this too, where and I've seen many permits that are subject to site visit. They're all subject to site visit because your plan is great, but the house may not allow you to do that.
Exactly. And
you have to adjust it. Now, because we can go for another 3 hours on this, but I wanted to ask you a quick thing about this. That's one thing I've seen. We're going to wrap this up with that because we're running out of time. I see a lot of general contractors out there that are answering jobs for and requests for plumbing and work, or they're trying to take on remodels where it encompasses plumbing and having them do it instead of subbing it out to the contractors as required. Now, you see this as a problem.
Absolutely. There are a lot of general contractors out there that advertise kitchen and bathroom remodels, for example. Now, some of those contractors have subcontractors that are licensed plumbing contractors. Some of them, because they want to save a couple dollars, they want to do it themselves. And again, the problem is that most people don't realize it could be a minor leak, and it causes thousands of dollars in water damage or mold damage. If that contractor did it, that carpenter did it, it may not be covered under your insurance company.
Right.
So the couple dollars that he saved by not hiring a plumbing contractor, he may or may not have passed down to you, and you end up with the $1,000 bill of having to restore the walls and tile and everything that he just put in because of a leak, and your insurance company won't cover it. So, I mean, that's another thing that's, most people don't even think about. They just assume that you hire somebody and they're an expert in their field, and that's not always the case.
Or one-stop shop isn't always the best way to go.
Nope.
So that's David, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge, experience, and everything with our listeners. And so we're going to say, as we wrap this up, permit, yes. Inspection,
definitely.
Okay. And contractor needs to have a licensed plumber on any plumbing and any type of potable water that's being touched in the home. So
absolutely.
So, and inspectors are your friends.
Yes, we are.
I'm glad I enjoyed. I am now part of your group. So, and if people want to reach you over at Aquaflow, what's a good number to reach you at?
Our office number is 630-665-7249.
I appreciate having you on, and I will be at the meetings as well now that I'm a plumbing inspector, a certified plumbing inspector. I joined the ranks. So thank you for your advice on that.
We're always happy to have you.
I appreciate it. I want to thank everybody for listening and joining us on today's show. Do head out over to Ferguson Supply for all your kitchen, bath, and lighting and appliance needs. Your dream kitchen is as close as Tinley Park. And check out our website for more information on today's guests or to listen to previous shows. Till next week, have yourself a great week, and we'll see you next Monday.